Hello and welcome to today's live masterclass. I'm so excited that everyone's joining. I see lots of people coming in live right now. Guys, if you can find that chat box and jump in there now, let me know where in the world you're joining me from. We will get started very shortly. I'm just going to give everyone a couple of seconds to come in. Now, today's topic is break free from IBS. So the 3-step roadmap that's helped not only myself, but over 250 of my IBS clients to break free from IBS, which means that they now have total symptom control. They are eating out, socializing, living their best life without constantly worrying about what their gut is going to do today. I really appreciate that you've taken the time out of your day to be here. I do recommend setting aside about the next hour because there's lots of information we're going to go through. I really want to be really thorough today so you can walk away with some really practical strategies to not only get your symptoms under control, but also help you to identify your true triggers. So we're going to go through that very, very soon. I see lots of names coming through. So Jessica's joining from Sydney, Sarah's from Brisbane, Emily's coming in from California. Hello, Emily. Amanda, Jennifer, Ashley are all coming in from the US as well. Stephanie's coming in from Melbourne. Nicole and Megan are coming in from London in the UK. Guys, this is so incredible. We have people all over the world joining us today. Rachel, Brittany, hello. Yes, guys, keep it coming. We're going to get straight into it because there's so much information that we're covering off today. So today you are absolutely in the right place. If you're struggling with IBS symptoms such as pain, diarrhea, urgency, and constipation, and you're over it, you're fed up, you're ready to ditch the unpredictable symptoms and just feel back in control of your body. You're also in the right place if you're drowning in all the conflicting information out there. So maybe you've been scrolling social media or you've been on Dr. Google, and at the end of the day, you just want reliable information that's going to give you relief, something more than the single piece of paper that was handed to you from your doctor. And you're also in the right place if none of the experts so far seem to have taken your symptoms seriously. You're done ducking out of social events early because you need to get home once those symptoms kick in. This is a photo from a friend's 30th earlier in this year where I was able to, wear jeans. It was an all-you-can-eat and drink event. So I did unlimited food and drinks, and I actually came home without a hitch, without symptoms. And it's a moment that I really reflected on afterwards and was like, wow, my IBS has come a long way, because to be able to go to something like this event and wear jeans is something that I never used to be able to do. Now, I want you to drop in the chat a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or maybe in all of the above, which ones of these really relate to you. So number 1, you wake up feeling that all too familiar urgency. It forces you out of bed and straight to the bathroom, and it sets the tone of discomfort for the day ahead. Perhaps you are on the opposite spectrum and you struggle with constipation, and you wake up without much of an urge. You maybe sit there and feel like you're just thinking, what's the point? And then that bloating starts to kick in. You often skip meals or avoid eating before leaving the house, or maybe before an event, because you want to avoid symptoms. You find yourself relying on medications such as Imodium or Gastrostop or laxatives just to make it through the week, creating a sense of unease on how much control you truly have over your symptoms. Number 4, work meetings have become a source of anxiety, as sudden waves of symptoms such as cramping and sudden sweats often disrupts your focus, making it difficult to engage or share ideas confidently. Number 5, you dream of just enjoying dinner out. You want to be able to savor each bite without constant worry of needing to rush to the bathroom before you even finish that meal. And number 6, you don't even get me started when it comes to travel. I remember the travel anxiety that used to come with IBS. So just the thought of going on the road fills you with dread. Sometimes you have to completely pull over, find a rest stop. Maybe you've even just done it on the side of the road, because your symptoms can be really unpredictable. So let me know. I see lots of different numbers coming through now. Amazing, guys. So Amanda says a 1, 2, and a 3. Jennifer says all of the above. Steph says all of the above as well. Megan and Melissa, Yes, everyone's relating to a lot of these ones. Now, I know that this is how a lot of you feeling. It's how I used to feel. It's how a lot of my clients feel before working together. Now, I really want you to close your eyes with me for a second, and I want you to imagine this. Imagine it is 6 months from now. You're free from your symptoms and you feel confident in your body again. You're able to say yes to that dinner invitation or promotion at work, or you are actually planning your next overseas trip. Maybe it's a Europe 2025. Your gut no longer impacts your quality of life or your daily activities. You have total IBS freedom. Now stick with me today because this is what I'm teaching you inside this masterclass. These are the steps that I've been through myself, and I've helped over 250 of my clients worldwide to help achieve as well. Now, as a bonus for those that do stay until the end of the masterclass today, I'm giving everyone a copy of my free low FODMAP snack guide. So this one is valued at $47, but just for coming along, guys, you're getting this one for free. Not only does it have low FODMAP snack ideas, but it actually teaches you how to make them filling, because this is one of the biggest mistakes I see people making with IBS. You're either skipping meals or you're constantly grazing on little foods throughout the day that just doesn't end up being filling, and it doesn't help digestion as well, which we'll talk about in a second. In addition to this, I'm also announcing some very limited spots inside of my IBS Accelerator program. So if you are ready to work with me and you want more information of that, I'm going to be announcing some program bonuses and a discount as well. For those who haven't met me, if maybe you're new to my Instagram, my email list, or my Facebook, I'm going to take a really quick minute to introduce myself. So my name is Crystal. I'm a university-trained dietitian and nutritionist, and I obviously have a special interest in IBS and gut health. I'm based on the Gold Coast here in Australia, but I do work with people all over the world, especially in countries such as the US, Canada, the UK, and New Zealand. Now, as I touched on earlier, I do have IBS myself, and I struggled for many years. I used to be probably somewhere where you are right now. Now, this is a more of an intimate photo of me to share, but I'm quite public about my journey with IBS because I think awareness is important, and I never had this when I was struggling. There was no social media, there was no accounts like mine that were really talking about these issues. And as a result, I really struggled for years without knowing that there was a solution, that it was anything really. I have really strong memories of curling up on the floor of my office job, just wishing that day to be over. I was always unbuttoning my pants because I struggle with bloating. Now, I know not everyone does struggle with bloating, so that one's, that's a symptom it's different for everyone. I personally did struggle with a lot of bloating and abdominal pain and discomfort. I remember feeling really jealous of people around me. My friends would wear like high-waisted shorts or jeans or pants, and I was just like, why can I not wear these things without that discomfort? I had, inconsistency in my diet. I would eat something and feel fine, and then I'd eat the same thing, a few days later, and then I have symptoms, and it was always just really confusing. I have always been more of a shy person. I would call myself an introvert, despite how confident I can sometimes be in social media. I have always been more of a shy person, and I was scared to seek help because the first time that I did, or a number of times that I did, I felt really dismissed by my doctor. Now, about 8 years ago, I did have a turning point, and I just decided enough was enough. A friend at the time had helped me to see that this was not normal and not something I should just accept. I'd recently graduated as a dietitian, and I really plunged myself into the research around IBS and the low FODMAP diet and figured out what was going on for my body. Initially, I went through the low FODMAP process, which really helped. Within the first week, I noticed a drastic improvement in things like bloating, abdominal pain, and discomfort and gas. But it was hard. It was hard to do on my own. I personally didn't have any support. I wasn't working with a dietitian, which I don't recommend. And I had no one to be accountable for. So as a result, I ended up spending months and months too long going through this process, when it's in reality, you can actually get through it in a matter of, say, 3 months. I then started working in the field. I learned more about IBS other than the low FODMAP diet, and I started to learn how important it is to actually address symptoms from different angles. So in combination with the low FODMAP diet and other things that I'd learned, I started to really help myself and really transform my own IBS. Now, fast forward on more than 13 years since all of this started. I now have consistent daily bowel movements. I no longer have that daily discomfort, pain, and bloating. I can go about a day, a week, even a month without even remembering I have IBS, except the fact that I talk about it all the time. But really, truly, it no longer impacts my daily decisions, my quality of life, and I don't really think about it. It doesn't take up that mental and that brain space anymore. I'm able to say yes to spontaneous meals out, go traveling, do all the things that I think that we all just deserve to be able to do. Now, very early on in my personal journey with IBS and my career is I realized that there was something missing. The IBS community really needed more health professionals to dig into the research and really come up with better strategies than what was available. You deserve absolutely more than being handed, a single piece of paper or told to Google it or told to just download the Monash app. There's a lot that comes into this, and this is what I'm going to talk you through today. So to really get the best results with IBS, we need to address the whole person. So the three main pillars, what we're going to talk through today, and I think make the biggest difference for people with IBS. Number one is supporting your body's natural digestion. So digestion is referring to how we break down food, so everything that we eat and how that provides energy for the body. The body is set up with all the tools for us to digest food. However, with IBS, there's some errors happening in that digestive pathway. So using nutrition and lifestyle and some tweaks, we can actually help you to get on the same team as your body so it actually does its job properly. Number two is understanding your unique triggers. So this process is really about identifying if there are any specific foods that do make symptoms worse, or if you're avoiding foods currently that you actually don't need to, which is really common as well. Not everyone has food triggers. So this is more of an exploratory process to figure out if you do even have triggers. And number three there is your nervous system support. So here we're talking about how your body and your IBS is affected by more than just food. It is a full body condition. So things like stress and anxiety can impact symptoms. And this really makes a huge difference in long-term relief. It's a step that a lot of people don't know about. It's a step that a lot of people do skip. Now, these three steps is what I have put together into the IBS Accelerator method. So this is something that I've created that works to address symptoms from these three angles. It's really where we get the most bang for your buck, get the best results. Now, I've then created this into an easy to follow process, which I do take all my clients through inside the IBS Accelerator program. So today we're going through this 3-step roadmap. Now, to give a bit of an insight, the IBS Accelerator program is a 6-month program. The reason it's designed like that is because it takes time to go through these steps. It doesn't take 6 months to feel better, but it does take time to go through these 3 steps. Now, obviously today we are going to be touching on all of that. I can't cover everything, but I really wanted to cover the most important bits so you have something really tangible to walk away with. So, first and most important step is we need to understand how digestion works to actually then address IBS. So think of this like building a house. This is the foundations. We need to set the foundations before we can put the walls up. This step is really important in understanding how your body works and to understand then how food can trigger symptoms. One problem that I see here is that people often blame foods or they try and pinpoint food triggers way too early in this process. And what can happen is you end up on this really restrictive diet, you feel really overwhelmed and not getting the results that you want. Now, get in the chat there and give me a big yes if this sounds like something you've experienced before. So you go out to lunch, say with your friends, colleagues, or your partner. You've been really careful with your food all week and you're trying to stick to foods that you think are safe for your gut. After scanning the menu, you pick something that feels less risky, maybe something like a simple salad and chicken. You feel pretty confident and the meal goes well and you're enjoying the conversation. But about 20 minutes after eating, or sometimes even sooner, you start to feel that familiar discomfort, the stomach cramps, the bloating, the urgency to use the bathroom. These symptoms, when they can hit pretty fast, and that panic then sets in. And immediately you start thinking, okay, well, what was in the dressing? What's in the chicken? Like, what have I done wrong here? You blame the meal, convinced that it's something in the food must have triggered your IBS symptoms. Now, either way, you're trying to push the symptoms to the side, or you try and excuse yourself and go to the toilet without anyone noticing. This, or something close to this, is a common scenario I hear from a lot of my clients. Symptoms often can increase when you start eating or shortly after eating, which means that it feels like the food you have just eaten could be the problem, leaving you floundering and trying to figure out what you did wrong or what your triggers are. Now, I see some yeses coming through. This one is a very common experience by the looks of it. Now, the first biggest mistake I see people with IBS making is blaming a food that they have just eaten for their symptoms. Now, let me explain. What this leads to is inconsistent results. So some days you eat a food and you feel fine, other days you'll eat the same food and see a reaction. This also leads to excessively restrictive diets and food fears. So the truth is that foods do not trigger an immediate reaction for IBS. So to explain this further, I'm going to take you through how digestion works and what else can trigger immediate symptoms. With this information, the goal is to help you pinpoint the correct triggers, not cut foods out of the diet that you don't need to. I also will just clarify that this is not me saying that your symptoms aren't real. Your symptoms are real. It's just very unlikely the food that you've just eaten that's triggering the symptoms straight away. Now, to understand how food triggers symptoms, we need to talk about digestion. So when we're looking at digestion, it's a long process. It starts in the mouth. The food travels down your esophagus, travels into the stomach, through into the small intestines, and then into the large intestine, and all the way out through the rectum and out the anus where you then poop. So for food to go from the mouth into the stomach, the food sits in your stomach for 2 to 5 hours, and then the small intestine anywhere from 2 to 6 hours, and then 10 to 59 hours to get through the colon. So for food to get from the mouth all the way out the rectum and out the anus takes a pretty long time. Now this can, some people have faster or slower motility, give or take, but on average we see that symptoms from a food take between 4 to 24 hours. Now, when we're talking about something like FODMAPs, now FODMAPs, for those who aren't familiar with it, are a type of carbohydrate. We'll talk through the low FODMAP diet in a minute. FODMAPs are the most common trigger food for people with IBS. About 80% of people that go through the low FODMAP diet will see a significant improvement in symptoms. Now, FODMAPs themselves are a type of carbohydrate. They're not absorbed into your bloodstream. What they do is they stay in this digestive tract. So they travel from your mouth all the way through your digestive system. When they reach the small intestine, so once they get down here, they start to draw in water, and then they move into the large intestine. In our large intestine, we have all of our gut bacteria, your gut microbiome, and they start to feed on FODMAPs and produce gas. So in the large intestine, there is then a combination of water and gas that triggers your intestines to expand and can trigger things like bloating, pain, gas, and changes in bowels like constipation and diarrhea. Now, one of the hallmark drivers of IBS is something called hypersensitivity. Hypersensitivity is referring to all of the nerve endings surrounding the gut. These are hypersensitive, which is why someone with IBS will feel this process. They feel things moving through. You might feel pain and discomfort a lot more intensely than someone without IBS. So when we're talking about how long the digestive system, essentially, on average, we say 4 to 24 hours it takes for that food to move through for symptoms to start. Now, I'm sure that the next question might be coming up. So what if I'm still running to the bathroom after every meal? Now, there are a number of things that this can be, and the most common is something called the gastrocolic reflex. Now, I know that kind of sounds like a big term, but it's not too scary. So the gastrocolic reflex, it's a natural reflex. It's a process that happens when you eat. So when you eat a meal, that food travels down to the stomach, that sends a signal to the large intestine. The large intestine will basically start contracting, pushing old food, poop, waste out of the body to make room for that new meal, which can then trigger symptoms, trigger that urge to go to the toilet shortly after eating or even during eating. Now, when it comes to digestion, there are a number of strategies we can do to actually help your natural digestion. We can't cover them all here today, but I want you to walk away with some practical strategies. So here I want to talk you through the importance of a meal routine and a meal schedule. This is really important before you consider an elimination diet or even taking a supplement. Skipping meals, blaming foods that you've just eaten, eating erratically over the day, all of these things can upset your digestion and trigger symptoms. Your gut really, really thrives in routine and knowing what to expect, and so does your digestion. So a meal schedule will help to support this. Essentially, with a meal schedule, what this means is eating regularly throughout the day, having breaks between eating. So it means not going really long periods of time without eating, and it means not just grazing and kind of peeking through the whole day as well. On average, I recommend about a 3 to 4 hour gap, give or take, it doesn't have to be perfect. What this does is it allows time for your stomach to empty, process the previous meal, and allows it to really prepare for the next meal. So here is an example of a meal schedule. Now this one's a general one only, and you can of course adapt this to your lifestyle. If you do currently eat 1 to 2 meals per day, this might look a little bit overwhelming, so always start smaller and make it work for you. If you're someone who does have more diarrhea-based symptoms, often smaller, more frequent meals is better tolerated and less likely to trigger that gastrocolic reflex after eating. So essentially bigger meals are going to trigger that reflex more. Now in this example, I've done it so that there's a meal about every 3 hours. So 6 a.m. breakfast, 9 a.m. snack, 12 o'clock lunch, 3 p.m. snack, 7 p.m. dinner. Consistency is really key here, so your body thrives on that routine. So choose a pattern and experiment with this, and then essentially go from there. With these, I really don't underestimate the foundational steps. These things might sound basic, but they are really helpful. On a similar note, I do want to talk a little bit more about skipping meals, because I know it is tempting and I know a lot of people do this. Often it's about delaying your symptoms. However, it's really important to know that skipping meals can also worsen IBS symptoms when they do hit. When there's no food in your stomach, your digestive system still produces all the acids or the digestive juices, and there are liters and liters of these flowing through your system each day. This can irritate the gut lining. Normally, food helps to really soak up these digestive juices and it acts like a sponge. So food will help reduce that irritation. Without food, the digestive juices have nothing to work on, and it can lead to worse symptoms like cramping, bloating, and diarrhea. It also can increase sensitivity of the gut. So an empty stomach is more likely to be sensitive to any of the foods that you do then end up eating, creating more intense reactions or more severe symptoms when you do finally eat. And having a regular meal routine, predictable rhythm can actually help with that. Whereas skipping meals will disrupt that pattern and can also change the motility or how fast or slow everything's moving through. So just something to keep in mind. I know if this is something that you do currently do, I know it's a hard habit to break, but it is an important one and it will really help. Now, I want to share a story with you of my client, Isabel. Isabel is someone who I worked with inside of the IBS Accelerator program, and she had very similar habits to what we've been speaking about. She was scared of food. She didn't know what to do. She was skipping meals. And she's going to share a little bit about how these strategies we're talking about actually helped her symptoms.
I was struggling with any sort of consistency with my IBS related symptoms. I was all over the place. Pain levels were high. I didn't know what was causing me to be so aggravated all the time. And equally, I just felt like I was lacking a good diet because I was avoiding most foods just to appease my stomach symptoms sometimes. One of the biggest changes was going through the program with you, teaching me how to eat properly, how to eat fiber-rich foods and having breakfast properly in the morning, not just a quick muesli bar when I was, rushing and on the go. I think I have a much better idea now of how to eat within my constraints, which are very different to what they were before I came to you. I have definitely more freedom and stuff now. I'm not having those big flare-ups anymore where I'm, sweating and shaking on the bathroom with extreme pain. It means that I can go out more and not be so stressed all the time. And, I stopped going out with my friends and started avoiding going to restaurants or going for drinks or, even going to the movies, because all you can eat is whatever they've got in front of you and everything would make me upset. But now that I've worked out how to calm down my gut a little bit, I can go out and I can enjoy things, and lots more freedom, lots more enjoyment. I think the lethargy and the fatigue was getting me a lot. The pain was getting me a lot, and all of that seems to have cleared up. And I think that's pretty much thanks to going through the program and eating the right food.
So that is a really good example. So Isabel, yes, she went through the low FODMAP diet. However, one of the biggest changes that we made was getting a regular meal routine, getting an established breakfast. She was busy, she would rush out the door, and we had to implement some things that made it a lot easier to actually eat regularly and to work on this consistency. Sorry, little blip there. So that was something we really worked on together for Isabel, and she was able to graduate the program with her symptoms in a really low place. And like she said, eating out with friends again, doing lots of just like normal everyday things. She also then went on, I think it was an 8-week trip to Europe with her sister, and was able to enjoy it and not have any major flares the whole time. All right, so step number 2. Step number 2, we're talking about pinpointing your unique triggers and adding foods back to your diet. Now, I say unique here because no two people are the same. We need to always personalize a plan to your body and figure out what works for your body. When trying to figure out food triggers, a really common mistake I see people making is automatically thinking gluten is the problem. I actually get so many messages from people on Instagram that are feeling really hopeless. They usually say something, I've tried cutting out gluten, I've tried cutting out dairy, I've tried taking a probiotic and nothing seems to be working. What do I do next? Now, I would love for you to share if you feel comfortable, jump in the chat. Let me know if you do have an experience with gluten. Is it something that you have tried to cut out? Did it help? Did it not? Did it help for a bit and then came back? One of the things that I really see commonly in practice and in the research is that gluten itself is rarely a trigger for people with IBS. Now, let me know in the chat if this sounds like your experience. So often when you cut out gluten from your diet, it goes something like this. After hearing maybe from your friends or stumbling across some advice online, you decide to cut gluten out of the diet. You're convinced it could be the key to helping your IBS symptoms. Initially, there's a little glimmer of hope. You start to notice some improvements in symptoms, your bloating lessens, and the uncomfortable cramping seems to diminish, leading you to believe that you're on the right track. However, as days go on, you realize that it's not quite that straightforward. The relief is inconsistent. One day you'll eat something gluten-free and feel fine, and then another day you'll eat it and, you'll then get symptoms. Your social life does take a bit of a hit because you find it hard to go actually eat out. You find yourself scrutinizing menus or avoiding certain restaurants. And if you do go to an event, sometimes you just kind of throw it to the wind and it feels like it throws you off track. It's going out and socializing is not any fun anymore, and it starts to create a bit of food anxiety. I see a few people in the chat saying, yes, this is for yes. So when we do examine foods such as bread, so food such as bread obviously contains gluten. Now, when the thing with something like bread or wheat in general is that there are many components in these foods that someone can react to. The gluten component is the protein component. If you have celiac disease, of course, you need to avoid this. And I think that's where a lot of this confusion comes from. There's a lot of fear that comes from that because yes, celiac disease has to avoid it, but that does not mean that gluten is inflammatory for anyone else. IBS and celiac are different, and what we see in the research, and I see this commonly in practice as well, is that it's more often something called the fructans in food that people are reacting to, if at all. And the fructan component is also called the FODMAP component. Now, the low FODMAP diet will help you to identify if FODMAPs are your triggers. It's important to know the difference because it'll allow you to identify your true food triggers. You'll avoid eating foods that could be sneakily triggering your symptoms, and we can also add foods back into your diet. Now, I have a number of clients that have shared wins with me in the recent months where they have gone from eating gluten-free, avoiding it for a number of months or even years. So I had a client recently that was avoiding it for 15 years or over 15 years. We did the wheat challenge. She was completely fine with it. I had another client, Jillian, who was very similar. She had thought for a long time that she just wasn't following gluten-free correctly or good enough. And then we found out it was never actually the problem. And then I have another client there as well. She had similar, and she was able to go to a wedding, was able to eat pizza, sausage rolls, and drink alcohol, and didn't end up having any problem because it was never actually the problem in the first place. Now, if the low FODMAP diet it is a new concept to you, it's the most science-backed diet that improves symptoms in IBS. Studies show that it helps up to 80% of people improve symptoms. Now, this is when conducted with the help of a dietitian. The studies also show that people who do it on their own are much less successful. About 30% of people see improvements, where it's up to 80% when you do have the support. So it shows that there are a lot of common mistakes that people used to make. Now, I do use this commonly in practice with clients, but I will say it's also not the only solution. So if it's not suitable for you, it doesn't work for you, there are lots of other things that we can try. Now, with the low FODMAP diet, the biggest mistake I see people making is actually going too strict, cutting too many foods out, staying in the elimination phase for too long. I've just pulled an example here from one of my resources inside the IBS Accelerator program, and what I wanted to highlight is how many foods are actually low FODMAP. So this is looking at the vegetable category. All those foods on the left-hand side are low FODMAP, and on the right-hand side are high FODMAP foods. So for example, some of the high FODMAP vegetables includes things like asparagus, cauliflower, garlic, onion, and mushrooms. And there's lots of other options on the other side. A common concern that people often have with the low FODMAP diet is, maybe you live with housemates, your partner, or kids, and do you actually have to cook separate meals? And not at all. The low FODMAP diet is not a cut everything out, you have to follow it really strictly just by yourself for the rest of your life. It's a process, it's a protocol, and there are plenty of family-friendly, housemate-friendly kind of meals that you can use. And there's also lots of everyday foods you can find in store. So this is an example of my low FODMAP shopping guide from inside the IBS Accelerator. In here, my clients get, exact lists, exact photos of all the foods you eat. And because there is lots and lots of kind of everyday products that you can eat. Now, the low FODMAP diet works like this. So step number 1 is a 2 to 6 week elimination. So 2 to 6 weeks. On average, I probably do somewhere in the middle, about 3 to 4 weeks with the most of my clients. At this stage, and then we go into structured food challenges. So when we're talking about identifying your food triggers, at this stage, there is no test. There's no blood test, hair test, saliva test that will accurately tell you your food sensitivities. There is ones out there that are expensive, they're promoted to do this, and they are a waste of time and money, unfortunately. They are not backed up by science, and they have been disproven to work. The gold standard to really figure out your food sensitivities is this structured elimination, followed by some structured food challenges. Now, I'm going to talk you through what a food challenge is and how that works as well. So lactose intolerance is a really great example of this. This can be conducted over a 3-day period. How we do this is what we're doing is we're testing individual serves and we're finding your personal thresholds as well as overall tolerance to the food. For example, day 1 is a quarter of a glass of milk. This contains about 3 grams of lactose. Day 2 is half a glass of milk, which contains about 6 grams of lactose. And day 3 is a larger serve with about 12 grams of lactose. So not only are we testing your overall tolerance to this food category, but we're also finding those thresholds. This is really, really key to be able to add more variety and flexibility back into your diet. And it also, so even if you're someone who's been diagnosed with lactose intolerance through your doctor, through a blood test, through a colonoscopy or endoscopy, there is usually still some threshold here. Now, why this is important? This is important if your goal is to be able to eat foods that with your friends, to be able to go out for ice cream, to be able to, go to a friend's house and not feel like you can't enjoy in the meal. If you even just pass day 1 of the lactose challenge, so the 3 grams of lactose, this means that you can eat equivalent to about half a tub of cottage cheese, a small scoop of ice cream, about 100 mils of regular cream. So what this looks like to me is to be able to save money on your grocery bill because you don't have to buy strictly lactose-free products. It means that you can go out for maybe a scoop of ice cream. It just allows that freedom, that food freedom. Now, going through this process, I have had a number of clients that, almost everyone comes to me, not everyone, but a lot of people come to me kind of thinking, maybe I can't eat this or I can't eat this food. For example, Monique was a client that had avoided onion for 10 years before coming to see me. Jill and Caitlin had both been avoiding wheat. Kelsey was avoiding onion and mango as well. Now, once you go through the food challenges, it really gives you that clarity and control back. You're no longer questioning where your symptoms are coming from, or you're feeling like you've failed or really done something wrong. You're able to really be more in tune with your body and at peace. So when we look at the low FODMAP diet, there are a number of FODMAP groups. So there's 11 food challenges in general. Each of them goes over 3 days. So it depends on how fast or slow you go through it, but we can get through all of them in about 6 to 12 weeks when we go through it with a structured system. And this is really where you get that control and confidence back. And like I touched on earlier, not only do we find overall tolerance to the group, we actually find those individual thresholds, which allows a lot more freedom and flexibility as well. Now, I want to introduce you to a client of mine, Leah. Leah talks through her experience with the low FODMAP diet and how this process helped her.
My name is Leah and I have IBS. For a bit of context, I've been living abroad for at least 5 years now. I lived in Ireland, lived in Malta, and then I moved to Asia. That's where my symptom got absolutely worse. I was eating differently, but I was eating quite healthy, so I couldn't understand what was triggering all those symptoms. I had very bad stomach pain and diarrhea every day. I couldn't, I was scared to leave the house, to do anything. I had very bad anxiety. So that was quite awful. I feel very helpless, to be honest. But now, thanks to Crystal and her personalized plan and one-to-one help, I was able to know my triggers. I've been able to find a lot of food that I can actually eat, which is great. And I'm also part of Crystal community on Facebook, and that was very helpful for me because when I had to do the low FODMAP diet, it was a very big change for me, and I didn't know what to eat. What was good is that this group, people were sharing recipes, and that was very helpful for me. So knowing that I was not the only one to have that was a big revelation for me, and knowing that other people experience the same and be able to share with people on the journey is really helpful for me. And I'm very happy that I'm part of this community, and I can't be thankful enough because now my life completely changed in a really good path, and I feel really good about this. Now I feel I have the food sorted, and I know also that there'll be this community and Crystal to help if I ever feel down or out of, if I have any issues. So that's very good. So thanks for everything.
So Leo is a really great example of someone who she came to me with IBSD. She was having quite severe experiences of diarrhea, pain. She was living abroad and was not cooking much, so it was a process to go through. And what we were able to do is really nail down her triggers and understand that not all food was the enemy, and there was actually only a couple of small things that were triggering symptoms. And when she avoids these couple of things, she was able to start traveling again and start going and play touch football again and really gain that confidence back. So this is just an example I wanted to highlight of how important or how helpful the food challenges can be. Now, step number 3 is we are talking about the role of the gut-brain connection. Now, let me know in the chat, is the gut-brain connection something you've heard of before? Is this a new concept? When we're talking about the gut-brain connection or the role of stress and anxiety, this is a really important step that a lot of people skip, whether it might be because you don't know much about it, it may be because you don't necessarily see that direct correlation, it doesn't feel like it, but I do really find that this is an important step for, I would say, everyone, 99% of the cases. It helps with overall symptom management. It also helps you to add more foods back in. So in my experience, I have seen people improve tolerance to foods, so foods that they were sensitive to actually improve that tolerance after we've also looked at things holistically. Now, here are some signs that you should address the gut-brain disconnection to help your IBS. So number 1, let me know in the chat if any of these are familiar. So a 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, or maybe a multiple of these. So number 1, you're about to leave the house to run a few simple errands, but as soon as you step out that front door, you start to feel a wave of anxiety about being away from the comfort of your bathroom. Almost instantly, your stomach cramps up and the urgency to use the restroom kicks in, even though you felt fine moments ago, or maybe you've already been. Number 2, you're at work, you're about to give a presentation, you feel nervous, and it instantly leads to that immediate increase in gut activity. So you start to feel cramping, urgency, even diarrhea. When taking public transportation or enduring long commutes, that fear of not having immediate access to bathroom can trigger symptoms as well. I've had a number of clients that will catch something like the train to work and they have to jump off at different stations, or they're driving to work and they have to pull over into different petrol stations to use the bathroom. Number 4, you're preparing for a flight or any kind of air travel, and the stress of being in that confined space also leads to an increase in symptoms. Maybe you take medication just to get by, or you ask for a seat next to the toilet. Number 5, now this one, I can definitely say I feel this one quite often, is stepping into the store. Maybe you're going into the grocery store, you're going to Target just to pick up a few things, and as you're walking through the aisles, you start to feel those symptoms kick in. You might not even feel anxious. You're like, I don't even know where this is coming from. But the urge to go kicks in. Suddenly you get those intense cramping and that you might need to ditch the trolley or the cart, start looking for where a bathroom is. Now, these are very real scenarios, and it is maybe an indication of, yes, maybe there's some food triggers that you'd eaten the day before or earlier that day, but it also can be an indication of your gut-brain connection, which is when your symptoms are worsening, there is some miscommunication happening between your gut and your brain. Your brain is sending these signals thinking something is wrong when there's nothing actually wrong. Now, the reason of this, so for a bit of background, IBS is actually categorized by a disorder of the gut-brain connection. So that's what it is. It's a disorder of the gut-brain interaction, which means there is a disconnection between how your brain and your gut are communicating with each other. We have something called the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve serves as a link between the brain and the gut, which is like the communication pathway. It carries information between the two. What can happen is your system is sitting in that fight and flight mode, which I'll talk about in a second. When stress becomes chronic, it can lead to a communication breakdown, which can change your gut motility, increase sensitivity of the nerve endings, and change your gut bacteria. So I know this slide looks a little bit overwhelming, but it's important, so I wanted to put it in here and talk about it. Now, this is talking about our nervous system. Our nervous system has three responses, but two primary responses. The parasympathetic system, which is our rest and digest mode, that's coming down here in the green. And then we have our fight and flight mode, which is our sympathetic nervous system. We also have something called the freeze mode. When you're relaxed, your parasympathetic nervous system, or your rest and digest system, it aids in digestion. And when you're stressed, you go into fight and flight, and this will also inhibit digestion. So it changes how you digest everything. When stress becomes chronic, it can lead to a communication breakdown between the two, and you can get stuck in this fight and flight mode for the majority of your day, the majority of your life, and you don't even realize it because you don't feel stressed, or maybe you do. It kind of depends on the person. What this does is it results in a change how your gut functions. It can worsen these IBS symptoms. The good news is that this is addressable. So with the right strategies, we can actually improve this. So we'll talk about a couple of strategies in a second as well. Now, this was really true for a client of mine, Grace. So she's going to share her story as well. Grace transitioned from a life full of daily discomfort, avoiding foods like dairy, and feeling really disconnected with her body. Each meal was a source of anxiety, and she often felt really trapped by her dietary restrictions. So
I suffered with IBS for 5.5 years, and I went through all the tests known to man, and there was no answers coming back. It was definitely taking a toll in terms of my enjoyment, and if there was an event coming up, the first thing that I would think about is, what if I feel sick? Where will the closest bathroom be? It was suddenly really encroaching on nearly every aspect of my life. I found like I didn't have any trust in my body anymore. I felt like my brain and my body were kind of working against each other. I'd gone dairy free for 3.5 years. Before that, I went gluten free for a year, and these were medical professionals telling me to do this. I hadn't taken it upon myself, so I really took that as like Bible, like, yes, you are dairy free. There was lots of events and birthday dinners that had to be cancelled and plans changed. I sometimes get emotional when I think about it, how far I've come in the like four plus months working with you. The biggest thing is mentally. I feel like my brain and my body, my brain and gut connection is very much aligned now, and I have a huge amount of trust in myself. Symptoms wise, I'm like exceptional. I really don't recognize my symptoms and like who I am now versus a couple of months ago.
So Grace is a really great example of the gut-brain connection. Grace, we worked through step 1 that we spoke about today. We actually didn't go through the low FODMAP diet. She was already avoiding foods, and we just wanted to focus on getting those foods back in and really just aligning her gut-brain connection, which made the biggest difference for her symptoms. Like she was talking about there, she now has a much more food freedom. She has been able to travel. She's been able to move across countries and has a lot more confidence again, which has just given her life back essentially. So when we're talking about supporting the gut-brain connection, number 1 is identifying the source of stress. So we can't always change the source of stress, but just identifying it, I think, can be helpful. This may be work, family, life, partner, whatever it might be. If we can change it, great. If we can't change the source of stress, can we change how your body responds to stress? Can we change how you are looking after yourself in times of stress? And can we reconnect? Can we improve that gut-brain connection? So strategies that can help with this, we're talking all about stress and the nervous system. So 1 is diaphragmatic breathing or deep belly breathing. journaling, having a consistent bedtime routine. Do not underestimate the power of actually getting the right amount of sleep. There are studies that look at things like yoga and Tai Chi. So doing yoga or Tai Chi 2 to 3 times a week has been shown to help with IBS. And then the biggest one is gut hypnotherapy. So gut hypnotherapy, things like the Nerva app. The Nerva app is a form of gut hypnotherapy that you can do. And then cognitive behavioral therapy is another psychological treatment as well. Now, gut hypnotherapy is a form of hypnosis that directly addresses the miscommunication between the brain and the gut and can significantly reduce symptoms of IBS. It's evidence-based, it's been studied in clinical trials, and in my experience, it can be really helpful. It's one of those puzzle pieces. For most people, it's not the only solution, but it helps overall. Now, Nerva is an app. If you haven't heard of it, you may have been targeted by some of their ads. Most people don't know if it's real or not. So Nerva is an app developed by some psychologists specifically for people with IBS. During a session, you go into this really deeply relaxed state. You go into some, it's about calming the body and mind. Once you're in that relaxed state, they take you through some guided imagery that helps to really soothe down your gastrointestinal tract, calm the nervous system, and improve the gut-brain connection. The program itself goes for about 6 weeks with recommended daily sessions, which are about 15 minutes each day. They're very relaxing. It's, I wouldn't let the word hypnotherapy kind of scare you off. It's not really like proper hypnosis, or you don't feel like that. It's just very relaxing. Now, Nerva is about $250 for their membership, but it is something that I also do include inside the IBS Accelerator program for all of my clients as well. So that's completely complimentary. Now, so even though I'm a dietitian and of course I talk about food a lot and how we can optimize food, add food back in, I also really do believe in addressing symptoms for all angles. So when I developed the IBS Accelerator, and as I'm constantly kind of improving it, I have also hired a number of experts inside the team, including Grace, who's a mental health therapist who talks about the nervous system and IBS. Nerva is included, and then I also have a pelvic floor physiotherapist. We haven't really spoken much about pelvic floor today, but it is another important puzzle piece. All right, I want to pause here and check back in with everyone, and I would love for you to jump into the chat and just imagine things for me. Can you imagine what it would be like to have that ability to trust in your body and your mind is clear from your IBS? What would it allow you to do? If you feel comfortable, jump in the chat and let me know. So are you spending more time with your friends? Are you going out on more date nights? Are you doing more day trips with your family? Are you training for a marathon or a triathlon? For myself, I didn't feel like I was held captive by my symptoms anymore. I didn't lie on the floor in pain every day, and I was able to go out and just enjoy my 20s. For the same reason, I feel a lot more confident going on vacations and traveling again. I can wear what I like on a daily basis. I can choose foods that I want without fear of what is going to happen. Now, I see some people sharing in the chat, everything, yes. So Jess says everything would be different. Sarah says she would be more confident at work. Emily says she would be traveling more. She's wanting to go to Europe next year. Amanda says that she would go to the beach more. Yes, so that's the thing, right? It's, I think that IBS kind of can creep up on you. It's not that bad, and then it kind of gets worse, and then you try different things, and then it just starts to slowly take over, and not necessarily take over in the most obvious way, but it can really, it's all these little moments in life of how it can really impact. By the sounds of it, you are ready. You are ready to wake up each day slowly without that morning urgency, or to wake up and not have to worry about what your gut is going to do today, to be able to socialize, eat out, travel, to be able to go out with your kids and go to the beach more, like someone mentioned in the chat there. You are ready for a sustainable solution. That means you have more food freedom at the end, not less. You feel more confident leaving the house, and it allows you to stop constantly searching for bathrooms. The way I see it is that you have two options. The first is that you could try and figure it out on your own, use this information today, and run the risk of coming back here in 12 months' time and being in the same position. Or option two, you decide to go all in and commit to getting support so that you can feel better and know that you have a plan in place. Each of my clients have been able to get quick but also long-term results because they've followed this step-by-step framework that's designed specifically for IBS. I want you to know that if I can do it, if they can do it, you definitely can too. I found a framework that works, and I want to share that with you too. So this is really what comes through in the IBS Accelerator. So I have talked about this a little bit today. If you have been nodding along, you're like, yes, this is what I need. I know that I'm ready for change. You've had your I'm done moment and you just want to feel better. Then I would love to invite you to join the IBS Accelerator. I'm going to pop a little link into the chat box now so you can join through there. Now, this is my comprehensive results-driven program designed specifically for people with IBS. The program not only will allow you to get more control of your symptoms, it'll help you to feel more confident in your body and have that freedom back so that you can enjoy the little things every single day and just feel good again. Now, I've given you an overview today of what we do cover inside the program. As you can imagine, we do go into it in more detail, but the most important thing is that I'm there every single step of the way to personalize the plan and the program to you and to your body. So I'm there to hold your hand through this entire process. For everyone that joins today, you'll also have an additional bonus if you do decide to join the program as well. So overall, what's included? So this is not a program, it's not a self-paced course or anything like that you have to figure out on your own. It is a hands-on solution. I will personally work with you, personalize a plan to you that works for you. We start off with a one-to-one consultation. This one is where we'll deep dive into your history. This is followed by weekly coaching calls. So every week we have our small group coaching calls. I'm there every week to check in with you, answer your questions, make sure everything's on track. We also have a private Facebook community for all questions that come between calls, help label reading, help checking menus, sharing wins, that kind of thing. And also an IBS Accelerator online portal. So this has step-by-step video lessons, shopping guides, meal plans, recipes, everything you need for success. I really want you to start feeling better quickly so you don't have to wait 12 months to see results. Some of my clients see improvements within literally the first 2 weeks of joining the program. It can be that quick. Now, the IBS Accelerator has been created just for you, and I do have a number of two different payment plans. I've just put it in different prices here because I do work internationally. So if you're in Australia, the full price, if you decide to pay in full, is $2,997, or the payment plan is $597 per month spread over 6 months. If you are paying USD, so this is usually internationally, then the full price is $1,997 USD, or a payment plan of $397 per month. However, as mentioned, because you did come along to the masterclass today, you are getting a massive bonus here. This is a fast action bonus. So if you do decide to sign up within the next 24 hours, you'll also save $500 Australian off the full price of the program. When you do get to the checkout, so if you follow the link that I've popped in the chat box, you'll be able to enter the accelerator. So accelerator at checkout, that'll save it. If you have any questions, send me a DM over on Instagram. All right. You're also going to get a number of bonuses. So I did share a few of these already with you. So the low FODMAP recipe ebook, low FODMAP meal plan bundle, these are really to make sure that cooking and food is easy. You don't want to spend hours cooking or hours in the grocery store. This is going to make it really simple for you. And as I mentioned, the Nerva hypnotherapy program. So this one alone, from memory, it's $197 USD or $249 Australian, but you get that absolutely free when you do join today. Now, I'm also going to share a story with Kelly. So Kelly is someone who recently graduated the program, and she shares a really beautiful story, and I think is important. It's helpful to see.
In the beginning, I was having loose stools, diarrhea. I'm starting to get a dull pain in my lower abdomen. I was having trouble narrowing down what my triggers were with food. I was trying to eat really bland. I was trying to eat more gluten-free. I had been following Crystal on Instagram and finally just decided, like, I'm going to do this. Like, I need help. Like, I don't think I can do this on my own. Like, the other thing with it that kind of made me take that leap of faith was it socially was affecting me. Eating and drinking is such a social thing. And I was afraid, like, to go have a boozy brunch or something like that because I didn't want to suffer the consequences of it later. I needed that social outlet, and so I really just wanted to get on track, and I decided to take Crystal's program. I think what impressed me the most about her program is just all of her attention to detail. Like, it is impeccable. Seriously. She gives grocery lists that are so detailed and like pictures of every item, so you know what you're looking for in the store.
And so that was really helpful. The training modules, she has tons of training modules, tons of downloadable resources. And the group calls, she's really good at listening and she's good at problem solving. I also just like that she has a very calm demeanor about her, because with IBS, it is stressful, and at times, like, and you can get really, frustrated if you're in a flare. And I just feel like through this process, she's helped keep me calm. I just graduated the program, and now I can say that my symptoms are much more mild. On a scale of 1 to 10, I would rank them like 0 to 2. I feel like I have a good understanding of what my triggers are, and I have less fear of what to eat. I'm back to eating out with my friends. My husband and I, we just took a trip to Mexico last month, and I was nervous about that, but I ended up not having any problems. And it was nice because Crystal was also there. If I needed to reach out, I knew I could reach out to her. So it's like, I feel like I have my confidence back when it comes to eating and managing my symptoms. And I feel like the program has been extremely helpful to me.
So Kelly is a really great example of the results you can expect inside the program. The majority of people their symptoms will basically decrease to the range of what we call 0 to 2 out of 10, which means that they're minimal. They're pretty much, 0 most of the time. You get small fluctuations, but they're no longer impacting your decisions, your thoughts, your process. Unfortunately, IBS is not something we can cure, but this is as good as it gets, right? It gets to the point where you're able to wake up and not think about it. It doesn't impact your decisions around food, and you just feel like yourself. You can live a normal life. Now, I'm going to run through a few common questions around the program, and then I'm going to open up Q&A to the floor. We will have a couple of minutes for Q&A, so you're welcome to put questions through in that chat box now. If I do miss any of your questions, then please feel free to reach out on Instagram and just send me your messages there, because we may run out of time today. So if you haven't already joined the program, you might have some questions. The question number 1 is, you work full-time, and really what's the expectation with time? So I work with so many people who work or study full-time, or full-time parents, or a combination of things. I've designed the program so in terms of the online program, the videos are all short. They're 10 to 15 minutes long on average. They're designed to really cut through the fluff, so you really learn what you need to know to get results. Essentially, I recommend 30 to 60 minutes each week to join in the calls, go through the training portal and participate. You don't have to wait for the perfect time to get started. This is, life is always busy. It kind of never stops. And everyone that joins just always says, I put it off, but I just wish I joined sooner. Number 2 is, I've been recently diagnosed with IBS. Is this suitable for me? Absolutely. So the program is tailored to meet you where you are in your IBS journey. So whether you have just been diagnosed and you're going to start off on the right foot, you're going to save yourself so much time and stress. Or if you are someone that has already tried making changes and you're ready for just that support and to get it right and to fast track your results, then I'm here to really meet you where you are in your journey. Now, you may have other time commitments, so I do know, being this time of year, that there are things coming up. And I just want to assure you that this is normal. The program is 6 months for this reason. I know that life doesn't stop. You don't have to restart if you do have trips or anything away in this time. During the last round of the program, I have clients that have gone to Hawaii, Bali, even Europe during the program, and they're able to do it a lot more confidently with less symptoms and without it ruining their progress. You also have access to the online portal for 12 months total, so you can always come back and continue even after the coaching ends. Now, the second last question I'll go through is, I've already tried the low FODMAP diet, is this program suitable for me? So yes, we go through more than the low FODMAP diet. So whether you want to try the diet, maybe you are ready to try it again, or you're already following it or it didn't work, there's lots of kind of factors that come into this. We do cover more than the low FODMAP diet, but we do also cover it in detail. Again, in that first one-to-one call, we go into this in more detail, and I map out your personalized plan to get started, and then I meet with you every single week to make sure you're always on track. Now, the last question is the start date. So you can get started as early as next week. So essentially when you join now, you have the option to get started straight away, booking that one-to-one call, or anytime in the next month is fine. If you do join in the next 48 hours, you'll also get that bonus. So if you're worried that it will not work for you, then this is also why I have a 100% happiness guarantee. So I don't want a single person to come into the program, do the work and not get a result. If you do not get a result, it's because if there's something unique about your health, I do have a 90-day money back guarantee. So what this means is essentially you can come into the program, attend your calls, work through the modules and submit your diaries. And if this doesn't work for you, you can have your money back within that 90-day period. So all the details are on the checkout page in the terms and conditions. So this is really a huge opportunity because I just want you to feel confident that you're making the right decision and you're getting the results that you paid for. Now, as a bit of a timeline, this is what you can expect. So when you join the program, you're somewhere where you are now. Symptoms are unpredictable. You are feeling confused around what to do. That first month, we really focus on symptom relief. So, we are looking at your meal routine. We are looking at potentially FODMAPs. We are looking at the role of the stress, and we're really helping you to feel better in as little as 2 weeks. We then move into understanding your personal triggers. We then move into the lifestyle and the holistic side of things. And then by month 4 onwards is we're really coming into that end of the program where you're, total IBS freedom, everything's coming together, you're adding foods back in and you're finishing the program in that place of long term. Now, a few of these clients you actually met today. So we met Leah and Kelly today, but I wanted to share a few of the expectations in terms of the results. So at the start of the program, I always get everyone to rate their symptoms out of 10, 10 being severe, 0 being not at all. And what's the average or what can it kind of feel like? Not necessarily every day, but how would you describe these symptoms? Leah went from a 10 out of 10 down to a 2 out of 10 diarrhea. Pain went from an 8 to a 2 and bloat went from a 5 to a 0 to 1. Kelly went from a 6 and a 5 down to that 0 to 2. Jackie was struggling with lots of constipation, pain and bloating that were a 7 to 8 out of 10 and similar, dropped down to that 0 to 2. And Millie was similar. She had a lot of diarrhea. She had pain and bloating as well and all dropped down to a 0 or 2. Millie said in our last call, she said, I no longer feel like I'm in a prison. I'm feeling so much more free and I don't even know what a flare-up is anymore, which is always such a nice feeling. So if you are still sitting on the fence, I'm going to pop another link in the chat box. So this is your opportunity to book a free call with me. So I've opened up 5 spots in my calendar. So you can join straight away, but if you need more information or you want to talk to me directly, then you can apply for a free call with me. This is a private Zoom call with me to personally talk through your personal IBS journey and see if the program is the right fit for you. You can apply for the free program in that chat box now. Now, I do want to say that by applying, it doesn't mean you're purchasing the program, but it does mean that you are serious about seeing if the program is a good fit for you. It's not a free coaching session. I can't answer any personal questions. We're here to really talk about your IBS journey, your situation, and see if the program will be a good fit for you. All right, I'm going to jump into that chat box. We've got a couple of minutes left. I'm going to go through any questions you've got. I see there's a number coming through. Again, if I miss your questions, then please feel free to send me a message over on Instagram. Or if you have questions about the program, same thing, send me a message over on Instagram as well. All right. Now, Lauren, I think I answered this before, but you asked, is IBS a lifelong condition or can it be cured or go into remission? Now, so IBS is something that there is no cure for. However, it definitely can go into what I would call remission or to a point that it no longer impacts your quality of life, your day-to-day life. That's how where I am now. For my own life, I don't have daily symptoms. I don't have major flares anymore. I don't avoid any foods. It's in this place where things are pretty good each day, but occasionally I have some small symptoms. So it's never like cured. Samantha asked, are probiotics helpful? So probiotics, this is kind of hit and miss. Now, I didn't talk about supplements too much today. It's a very personalized subject. We do use some supplements in the program because I personalize them to all my clients. There are some probiotics that may be helpful. There's a lot that are not helpful. They're kind of the cherry on top or like an additional strategy we use. They're not necessarily a first line defense. Rachel asked, how long does it take to see improvements in the program? Look, improvements within the first 2 to 4 weeks. And by about month 2, I'd expect things to be in a really nice place where you're feeling good overall. Now, Megan, sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong, she said how to treat a flare when it has started. All right, so when we are treating flares, this will really come down to what your symptoms are and treating those individual symptoms. We can do things to help improve, I guess, make it not necessarily, well, yeah, I guess to make it go away quicker, yes. We can do things that basically treat the individual symptoms or like get you through the day depending on what's going on. Now, if you are someone who has more diarrhea based, then you may use a medication to if you have to get out of the house, and that's okay. Same with constipation, we may use things like laxatives to help actually just flush out the bowel. Now, when it comes to something like pain, then there is, again, there's some certain supplements that may help with pain. We can do heat, so heat helps relaxes the muscle, so like a heat pack or a hot water bottle. Then there's like, we can do massages, like there's something called the ILU massage that can be helpful. So it really just depends on the symptoms, and we match the treatment to the symptoms. Sarah asked, does the IBS Accelerator help with SIBO as well? So yes, so SIBO is something I am experienced in and I can help you navigate testing and treatment. We don't treat it directly, but we work with your medical team to get that treated as well. And the final question is coming in that I can get through today because we're about to clock out of time. Now, Stephanie said, I'm away for Christmas. Will that mean I have to restart everything after Christmas? No, absolutely not. So with Christmas, what we do is we work on the foundations, we work on getting you feeling better, starting to understand your triggers before everything starts to come up. And then we just pick up from where you left off after the Christmas break, or we put in strategies to help you get through there as well. But you never have to sort of restart or start again, anything like that. We just adapt that as we go. All right, amazing. So just a reminder for the program, if you do join up, then if you use the code Accelerator, that is your fast action bonus. So if you join up in the next 24 to 48 hours, you'll be able to save $500 off the full price of the program. You'll get 12 months access to the portal. You'll get 6 months of weekly coaching calls with me, access to our private Facebook community, which is forever. And then there's some bonuses in there, including the Nerva Gut Hypnotherapy program. Now, I also did promise the snack guide. I'm going to pop the low FODMAP snack guide into the chat now so you can click and download that one. As always, if you have any questions, send me an email, send me a message over on Instagram. For those that, I see some messages coming through of people that have joined the program. I'm so excited to support you, and I'll see you very soon in our one-to-one call.